They are celebrated as visionaries, immortalized in marble, their signatures etched into the birth certificate of a nation. But behind the noble portraits and stirring words lies a world of secrets, rivalries, and betrayals. What if the Founding Fathers were not the untouchable legends we were taught in school, but flawed men, haunted by ambition, scandal, and hidden alliances? Tonight, we unearth the truths they tried to bury. Stay with us for the hidden history of America as Founding Fathers, and don't forget to subscribe for more hidden chapters of history. The year is 1776. Philadelphia swelters under a summer heat that seems to match the rising flames of revolution. Within the walls of Independence Hall, men gather, farmers turned philosophers, lawyers turned revolutionaries, merchants turned visionaries. Their names would echo through the centuries: George Washington, Thomas Jefferson, Benjamin Franklin, Alexander Hamilton, John Adams. But in that moment, they were not legends. They were men caught in a storm of uncertainty, standing on the edge of treason. The British Empire, vast, merciless, and unrelenting, loomed over the colonies like a shadow stretching across an entire continent. Any misstep meant not glory, but the gallows. And yet, these men dared to dream of a nation free from monarchy, free from tyranny. But beneath the patriotic speeches, a quieter drama unfolded. Washington struggled with doubts and the heavy suspicion of betrayal from within his own ranks. Jefferson penned immortal words about liberty while enslaving hundreds. Franklin, the wise old sage, carried secrets of his own, private dealings with spies and mistresses that history often forgets. It was a moment suspended between triumph and ruin. They could unite and create a republic unlike the world had ever seen, or fracture, exposing their hypocrisies and ambitions to history's unforgiving gaze. The stakes were not just freedom or chains. The stakes were legacy itself, and what they chose would shape America's destiny. By the late 1770s, the revolution was no longer just a war against Britain. It was a crucible forging the Founding Fathers' identities. George Washington, once ridiculed for his failures in the French and Indian War, was now commander of the Continental Army. Yet whispers haunted him. Was he truly capable of defeating the world's greatest military? Rumors of treachery swirled. His trusted general, Benedict Arnold, plotted betrayal. The revolution was as much about loyalty and survival as it was about liberty. Thomas Jefferson, meanwhile, drafted the Declaration of Independence, words that rang with eternal truth. All men are created equal. But his Monticello plantation told another story. Behind the polished phrases stood the hidden reality of slavery. Jefferson wrestled with his contradictions, yet allowed them to remain. His dream of freedom was real, but not universal. Then there was Benjamin Franklin. To the public, he was the grandfather of wisdom, printer, scientist, philosopher. Yet in the dimly lit salons of Paris, Franklin engaged in a dangerous game of diplomacy. With charm and wit, he wooed the French court, securing alliances essential for America's survival. But Franklin's personal life was more complicated, tangled in affairs, and with a son loyal to the crown, imprisoned as a traitor. Alexander Hamilton rose from obscurity, an illegitimate child from the Caribbean who became Washington's right hand. Brilliant, fiery, and reckless, Hamilton sought not only independence but a chance to build a new economic order. His ambition burned bright, igniting rivalries with Jefferson and Adams that would simmer long after the Revolution. And then there was John Adams, brash, outspoken, forever torn between his principles and his temper. Adams saw himself as the guardian of liberty, yet he struggled for recognition among his peers, his legacy overshadowed by others more charismatic. Each man carried secrets, flaws, ambitions that clashed with the ideals they proclaimed. And yet together, they pushed forward. But danger was closing in. Armies clashed, spies lurked in shadows, friendships fractured. The dream of independence teetered on the knife's edge. One betrayal, one failure, could end everything. The year is 1787. The war is won, but the revolution is not yet complete. In the sweltering Philadelphia summer, delegates gather again, this time to forge a constitution, But unity is unraveling. Jefferson, watching from France, fears monarchy creeping back. Adams demands a strong executive, while Hamilton envisions a centralized power strong enough to rival Europe's empires. Others fear tyranny, fighting bitterly for the rights of the states. The air crackles with tension, men shouting, doors slammed, threats of walking away. The dream of a united republic hangs by a thread. And outside those chambers, the people wait, farmers, soldiers, enslaved men and women, uncertain if the promises of liberty will ever reach them. The founders' reputations, their very place in history, rests on what happens inside that room. At last, compromise emerges. Not perfect, not pure, but enough to hold the fragile nation together. A constitution signed by weary men, scarred by conflict, bound the states into one. Yet even in triumph, shadows remained. Slavery was left unresolved. Power balanced precariously between ideals and reality. It was the turning point. The Founding Fathers had secured not just independence, but a framework for survival. But they had also planted seeds of future conflict. Their choices, brilliant and flawed, would echo for centuries. When the dust settled, the Founding Fathers stood as architects of a nation unlike any before. Washington became the reluctant first president, setting precedents that still guide leaders today. Franklin died revered, his reputation cemented as the wise diplomat. Jefferson and Adams lived long enough to witness their legacies collide and to die on the same day, July 4, 1826, exactly 50 years after the Declaration. Hamilton, consumed by rivalry, fell in a duel with Aaron Burr, his promise cut short. Their triumphs shaped democracy, yet their flaws haunt America still. The compromises they struck over slavery, power, and freedom ignited battles that would later tear the country apart. They spoke of liberty, but lived contradictions. They dreamed of equality, but practiced exclusion. They founded a republic of ideals, but also of imperfection. And perhaps that is their truest legacy, that history is not carved in marble, but written in flesh and blood. They were not gods, but men, brilliant, flawed, daring men who reached for the impossible and against all odds, grasped it. The hidden history of America's founding fathers reminds us that greatness is forged not in perfection, but in struggle. Their shadows still walk among us, in our freedoms, in our divisions, in the unfinished promise of the Republic. And so, as we close this story, remember, history is never just about the past. It is about the choices we carry forward. Like, share, and subscribe for more hidden history revealed.